Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Dogman teepee hunting, aka Phil. Yes, again, we have linked up for another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on LordeStarfox Radio, the home and the stomping ground of the North American Dogman Project. Well, that was a tad bit messy, but no worries, I can clean up the blood splatter and body parts a little bit later. Without further ado, it is time to take a walk into the darkness with Dogman teepee hunting and LordeStarfox Radio.
Stood up. I said, oh my god, it's a werewolf. And everybody in the car freaked out.
My creatures of the night, yes, welcome back once again to another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on LordeStarfox Radio. Yes, this is the home and the stomping ground of the North American Dogman Project. And tonight, we again have Phil, aka Dogman Teepee Hunting, hanging out with us. And to everyone that does tune in, Phil is a bi-weekly host, so you should recognize his name. And tonight again, we sit around the late night fire in an attempt to burn the timber and read a few chapters from the Midnight Society book. Phil, my guy, how you been?
Hey, good. Yeah, not too bad. Thank you, LordeStarfox. Yeah, I'm busy. Oh, my word, busy. But it's a good busy. I'm not grumbling. It's a good busy. I'm happy to be here, and I do appreciate you having me on. And I just want to say hello to everybody.
Appreciate you, man. I mean, it is always good to definitely link up with you for sure. And I appreciate all the help and such. And, well, to the audience, like I said, you really should know who Phil is. But Phil, would you like to give yourself a little bit of a plug, explain, what you do, what you're interested in?
Oh, thank you very much, LordeStarfox. Yeah, I run a YouTube channel which is called Dogman TP Hunting. Also on Facebook under my name, Phil. Last name Kotval, Kotval. But look me up, and if you want to get in contact, get in contact. I investigate predominantly Dogman issues, sightings. If I hear of anywhere where there's been a sighting within the UK, this is in the United Kingdom, I will do my utmost to try and get there or investigate it as far as I possibly can, using any and all means that I can use that's available to me. I also do a lot of paranormal work as well, because I do actually believe that a lot of this is intertwined. But I think we'll talk about that in a little while, LordeStarfox.
That is absolutely epic stuff right there for sure. And to the audience, Phil's description and links will be up in the video as always.
It is quite an incredible creature, the Dogman is. And when you think about it, every interaction and experience that a person has that you've heard about, how much information in a way of evidence has there been? Do you know what I mean? How much information have we got from any experience that a person has had? It's one of these things where it's a shame that she's done that, and if she has done that, it is a pity. But also, we have to remember that we're dealing with Dogman. It goes back hundreds of years, as we know, thousands if you go back to the Egyptian Anubis. This is going back to talk of the Sciencephali and stuff. But nowadays, when people say I've seen a Dogman or I've seen this entity and that entity, it's a very personal thing to see. It's if they came and into Walmart or in this country into Asda's or whatever supermarket and started growling and walking up and down, pacing up and down the aisle, people would be like, wow, everyone would be like, that's incredible. That's incredible. But they're not. They're out in the forest, they're out in the woods, and they see or they hear something and they just see out their peripheral vision. So, evidencing is a real hard thing for anyone to do. I've been at it for ages, and evidencing wise, I rely on cameras, but because it gives me that distance. I don't want to get too close to anything. You know what I mean? I don't want to get too close to whatever I'm seeing and capturing on film. So it's a good distance to be, and I can sort of that's a good way for me to try and prove what I have experienced out there. But if someone's to say to me, well, Phil, what can you prove it with? What's your backup? Alas, I've got to be honest and say I don't have any physical proof. And I just don't have any physical proof. I wish I did, but I don't. Like so many other experiences, we just have what we see and experience out there. I'm not saying that this episode with the massacre, the LBL, you are correct, and I absolutely trust your investigation skills and your experts when they investigate, because you are absolutely thorough, and I do absolutely I'm on your side when you say that if she came up with this and it's a story, I believe you. That's fine. But also, in essence, there's a very thing I find the strangest is let me just say this right now. When people see Dogmen, there's certain traits to it. There's certain things which, in every experiencer, it goes hand in hand. And a lot of Bigfooters out there are going to say, blimey, yeah, actually, that happens to us as well. First thing that happens, when you see an entity that looks like Dogman, the pointy ears, jet black, it will be at first, it will be on the peripheral vision. You won't see it right in front of you. It will just be on your peripheral. You'll feel it more than you will see it, and then it will just slide past, and you'll see this shape go past. Bigfooters have the same thing. They seem to, after they've been seen, they seem to morph back, or the forest or the woods actually morph through the Bigfoot or morph through the Dogman. They seem to have got this predator a talent of morphing out. So they're quite, when you look at it, they're quite ethereal beings. They're quite almost spiritual. They're quite sort of ethereal beings. When you hear about another thing which happens, especially in the States, I shot one. Okay, that's great. Did it die? No. What happened then? You shot it. Bullet kind of went through it. It acted as if it wasn't shot. It made no as a normal animal would respond at being shot. This didn't squeal. This didn't limp. This really took no notice of the bullet hitting it. So that again brings into mind, well, if that's the case, it's no more physical than a ghost, is it? Well, no, it's got to be, because there's footprints. Yeah, there has been footprints, but then we're dealing with something that a lot of times I know myself, and Bigfooters know, and Dogman experiencers know. You very often find a footprint and it just stops in the middle of nowhere. And it's like where we are is out in the mud. Okay, you're out in soft ground, mud. You see a footprint, and then nothing. It's just what is it been beamed up? Has it got like its own? Is it like beam me up, Scotty? And boom, it's gone. It's kind of it's a tricky one. It's very very ethereal being. It's a very personal being to that individual that's citing it. So yeah, she's wrong in what she did. If she did, like you say, come up with the story. What the worst part about it is she, like you pointed out, she prolonged it, she propagated it. It's very well coming up with a story, but if you know the story's getting legs and people are believing it and jumping on the bandwagon and you're making books and money and the rest of it, there comes a point where you have to turn around and say, oh, do you know what? Actually, thank you for the ride, but it was bullshit. It was a bit BS there initially. It would be nice if she was able to say, look, there was a grain of truth which sparked it. I elaborated, but initially there was a grain of truth in it. That would be nice. That would be nice, something to work with.
4chan and Reddit aren't really, in my eyes, credible areas to gather information from. I mean, you can find credible information on those, but 4chan too, especially, is notorious for fake stuff up on there, man. Like you were saying about the footprints, so it is mind-boggling with that. If it's in the middle of nowhere and then you can't find any more, that's definitely something I don't have an answer for, but we're pretty optimistic that they use trees, and we have numerous cases where tracks would disappear, but there's trees around. And we've had cases where they've been able to leap like 10, 15, 20 feet or so, give or take. I mean, I know my squirrel can leap pretty dang far, man. And she's caught me off guard before with how far she can leap. And yeah, so I think that might be playing into some of those tracks are potentially disappearing. And to touch on what you said as well, we have a couple different cases. We have some that report it's more paranormal looking, and yeah, like you said, it's not affected by something. But then we have others where it's blatantly affected by what's being shot at it, and I think a lot has to do with lower caliber weapons as well. I mean, there's been a couple of cases where large bears were taken out by pretty low caliber weapons, but then there's other cases where people just were not hitting these grizzly bears in good spots and their weapon wasn't strong enough. So this grizzly bear is sitting there taking 5, 6, 7 shots from a deer rifle. And that's what I try to explain to people is a lot of times when people are hunting, they use lower caliber ammunition. I am not a hunter. I'm a huge animal lover. Okay, I could never do that. But from people I know that I'm friends of and such, explain to me that depending on if they want to use the pelt, etc., they don't want to damage the meat. They don't use these huge caliber bullets. So I think what's happening a lot of times is you just have people that are out there with calibers for deer and such that don't really have much body armor or, fat on them to protect stuff. But again, same thing with a moose. I had a friend when we were younger that his father took him moose hunting. Same thing. Too low of a caliber weapon. Shot this thing like 12, 15 times. It was running all around, screaming. Blood was just gushing out everywhere. The kid was so traumatized he never went hunting again. But low caliber weapon that wasn't doing enough damage. So, I mean, if you and I were out there, which some of my friends like Jessica Jones and Drewski, man, they got semi-automatic, they got automatic weaponry, they're former military, Drewski's former SWAT. I mean, they got grenades and everything, man. If something is in this realm, it's not going to be able to handle that. And the reason I say that is, we know megalodons existed. Some people like to think they still do. That's not what we're here to talk about. That's not why I'm using the example. T-Rex as well. We both know they were dominant predators. Okay. Well, if you took a submarine and shot a torpedo at it, what's going to happen to that megalodon? I mean, it doesn't matter how big or powerful it is. It's in this realm. It's been destroyed. Same thing with a T-Rex. A T-Rex could be running at you and I, shoot it in the kneecap with a rocket launcher. What's going to happen? Game over, correct? So, again, we're talking about massive dominant predators, but you're using proper military spec weapons to dispose of it. Yeah, I mean, if it's paranormal, sure, that's not necessarily going to work. But if it's in our realm and it exists, whether it's a 40-foot anaconda or a 12, 14-foot bear, it doesn't matter. If you got that caliber weaponry that is used to rip through body armor and Kevlar, and you shoot that thing right between the eyes with something that pushes out ammo like pop, 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 pop. I mean, you just hit that thing, 5, 6, 7 times right in the brain. You see what I'm saying? So.
No, I see exactly what you're saying. Yeah. You know, you're completely right. Completely right. You know, it would just decimate. But people do have, you know, in a whole range of countries, people do have sightings and they do have weaponry. But we still don't have a body, or we still don't have a blood sample. We still don't really have bona fide fur samples. We don't, you know, there's something about these things. What I'm getting at is there's to take it on a little note, just asking people out there, right? I have a thing where I've got blink cameras, right? Amazon blink cameras. Now they've got a way of, and I can't fathom this out. I've got one blink camera on the driveway. Now I know when the postman's coming, right? It usually comes around about the same time. The blink camera will come on before he enters the zone of the PIR to actually action the camera to switch it on. It's as if the camera knows and to switch itself on before he comes into the field of view. It's the craziest thing. And I think that tends to happen with this Dogman enigma in a way. I'm open to the possibility of it being from another realm. Now, the reason I say that is because just recently I've been out in the woods when it was foggy, and that's a strange fog as well. The fog was a grey-coloured fog that I was walking in. It was in the woods, and it was really thick. It was getting dark as well. And what I was planning on doing is planting a microphone. So I was walking through the woods, and I was like, you know, ready to plant this MP3 recorder. It's basically like a dictaphone, but I'd wrap it up in a dog poo bag, if you like, wrap it up in that to protect it, a very thin bag, and then just hang it in a tree if I can. Don't put it in the ground, because you put it in the ground, man, and what happens? You get bugs and everything else going over the bag, and it causes noises unnecessarily. In a tree, you've got when it's hanging, you've got more of a likelihood to get a clean sound, a clean recording from it. But anyway, it's foggy. It was getting dark, and happened across a couple of things. The first thing was, and I recorded all this. I got it all on video. Strange bangs were going off. Now, a lot of times you find like farmers will set off bangs to scare birds away. And they got these machines would go bang at that, and the birds go and fly away. This wasn't one of those type of bangs. It wasn't fireworks, but it was like in the distance. But it wasn't a car backfiring. It was something completely different. I recorded it, and you know, I'll send you a link so you can have a little listen to it, so you know, get your opinion on it. But also, I came across clothing, and this clothing, I've had this before, was high up. I'm talking high. StarFox, this thing, you know, it was a shirt, and it looked absolutely new. Had a knot tied in it, but it was so high up, and it was a thin, like a Hawaiian type shirt. You know, the ones, the summertime shirts you wear over a t-shirt, that type of thing. And it was really high up in the tree, and I was like, crikey. And it was put there on purpose. You could see it's like, put there on purpose. And I thought, God, that's weird. That's crazy, man. Why would that? And that's not the first time I've come across clothing that's been hanging in a tree. Dogs' collars in a tree high up. Pants, a guy's pants up in a tree high up. And you think to yourself, right, okay, people go to the woods, young couples, they get it on, they have some fun, whatever. But to climb a tree to that height, I mean, we're talking sort of like 40, 50 feet up in a tree, just wearing your underwear to hang your trousers up, your pants up on a branch and tie them in a knot, and they're brand new, not muddy. Really odd, very odd. And then on the way back, I saw this, it looked like a dogman hiding in the brush at low level, just looking. I see the pointy ears. I've also got like a person that viewed the video, and she gave me timestamps of another entity that she saw running through the woods in the fog. So I've got to go over that as well. But anyway, what I'm getting at, the recorder, I went to get it, right? When I went to get it, I've got 25 hours of recording time on it. Right? Now, a lot of it I skip through. I skip through the lot. I go from midnight through to 4 o'clock. That's the times I concentrate on. Around about the devil's hour, yeah? So devil's hour being 3 a.m. So I kind of like have that window, about 4-hour window. And I get the same sound as I've gotten before. And it was 2:20 in the morning. And it sounded metallic, like a gate opening, a metallic gate opening. I've heard this before, and I've recorded this before in a different wood, but this is a separate wood, a new one. And then I heard, after the gate opened, I heard the running of deer, like they were running. One came really close to the microphone. You can hear its hooves like quite loud and deep on the ground. And then I could hear a loud humming, like a machine humming. Now, we're talking about in the woods where I took, it's quite far away from anywhere. There's no houses nearby. There's no roads nearby. So you can't say it's cars. The nearest road would be, say, I would roughly guess about 2.5 miles away. 2.5 miles. That's the nearest road. And so you got this loud humming. So the metallic sound of the gate opening up, creaking of the gate in the distance. This is, and then there's humming, getting louder and louder and louder. Then after that, then it starts getting a bit crazy. So anyone that's been out in the woods at night will know this. As you're walking through the woods, early evening, it's quite quiet. It's almost ridiculously quiet in the woods or the forest. Sometimes it's eerily quiet. You kind of like walking along, you think, there must be animals everywhere I look, sort of like from rats to mice to rabbits to foxes to, bears. Well, not in the UK, but you know what I'm getting at. There's animals everywhere, but it's eerily quiet. But then when it gets dark and it gets like late at night, any step you make, the first thing you hear is birds fluttering. They like flutter and fly away because they're like resting, and they get disturbed by the noise from me walking through the wood with my torch and my camera. So you get used to it. At first, it used to like scare me. It's oh my God, what was that? But as birds, they could hear me and they could just go, man. But after this, now I wasn't there. Remember, it was a recording, so there's just a microphone there. But you heard the humming, and then all of a sudden you heard this thumping, boom, 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 and then the birds scattering from the trees. I very often think that what we could be dealing with is what they say being portals. Maybe these things, because they're so they're only seen in the peripheral of our vision, which suit them. They don't go down. Evidencing them is very, very difficult. Now, we know they're there. I'm not saying they're not there. I know I wouldn't be here if I hadn't experienced seeing a type 1 and a type 2 dogman. I wouldn't be here talking about it because I've got no authority otherwise, but I have. So I am here. I have experienced these things. So they are here, but where they're from, I'm not so sure. I don't know. I think probably they could be. We have to take on board the possibility that they may be a cryptid that isn't in this realm. Portals are known to exist. MIT have said that portal theoretically does exist. Okay, they put through a paper. I think it was when was it? 2016. I think it's 2012. They found the Higgs boson. CERN did. So the God particle, we found it. Brilliant. The particle that binds everything together. And MIT came up and said, right, okay, portals, we've postulated and theorized that a portal could exist. If there was enough Higgs bosons on a quantum wave, that would enable a portal to open up. So it is entirely possible that portals could exist in our realm, because we didn't ever think that there'd be a God particle. And that's almost like, if you can imagine looking around the room where you are now, it's like a river of particles. A Higgs boson is a particle that runs around everything. It is like mercury almost, and it holds everything together. It gives it form. That's what the Higgs boson tends to do. So, that wasn't meant to exist. At least it wasn't meant to be found, but we found it. With the drones that we've seen, I'm not going to get on to the drones, but just as an example, a lot of people are saying they're plasmoids. So, people go, what? What's plasmoids? And you get plasma balls from lightning. So when the lightning strikes, the energy from the lightning reacts with the fourth state of matter, which is the fourth state of matter is a gaseous. In our world, gaseous matter, so it reacts with that and it creates a plasma ball, because it strips away the electrons are stripped away from the gas, the air, and it causes energy, and that energy creates a ball because that is the most energy efficient shape, being that we're in a pressurized atmosphere as we are here on Earth. So these people are seeing these drones, and these drones are illuminated, but they're illuminated on the outside because the atoms are trying to recombine again, and as they're recombining, they're shedding off energy, which gives them the illumination on the outside. All these things are possible, and I think that we have to take on board the fact that we're almost self-defeating ourselves when we come up with a case of trying to take Dogman and equate it to, in a cryptozoology definition, we're trying to relate it to a creature on this earth, either previously known or a hybrid. But I think we have to have a really wider spectrum of thought. We have to take on the realization that it may not be. It may be something which is out of this realm. I'm not sure what thoughts you had on that, but I just wanted to put that out there for people to cogitate over and think about, really.
That's some beautiful stuff right there, like always, man, and a lot of great questions up in there that it's going to take a lot of potential great minds to try to figure that out. I do know that, like you said, in theory, sure, portals could potentially be existing. And I do know there was a project here in the United States called the Philadelphia Project, where supposedly they were able to take a destroyer. I believe the crew did not survive this supposed teleportation aspect, but it's pretty interesting for sure. And to touch base on what you were saying about like some of the evidence and stuff, I do know that Jody Cook, the founder of the NADP on file, has a couple nails. They actually seem to belong to some sort of canine, which is pretty interesting. And then we have baboon tracks, hyena tracks up here. In the United States, we have some strange unknown tracks that we can't verify. Same thing with vocalizations, where we've sent them to people that were able to figure out that nothing in this area would sound like this, etc. And we also do have some pretty interesting fur samples and such. And there have been a couple instances where there was actually DNA taken. There is a case from Luther, Michigan, where a deputy Chamberlain shows up at a remote cabin that had been supposedly being ransacked and vandalized. When he showed up, it looked like something had tried to chew in through the bottom of the door. And he said there was bloody slobber all around the cabin and claw marks, and the slobber was way above his head. So he called in the Forest and Game Commission in Michigan that came in. They verified what he had seen, obviously asked him questions. He showed them the tracks, and then he left the scene because he was done. Well, they did get a hold of him afterwards and said that they followed those mysterious tracks into the forest, and also that this slobber did belong to some sort of canine. And there was another instance near a swamp where a gentleman woke up in the morning and his truck was completely sitting awkwardly, and as he approached it, it looked like something had grabbed the front axles and bent it out, and there were scratch marks and chew marks all over his truck. And he had been finding ripped apart animals on his property, and when they did come in and take that slobber off the front of his truck, again, it came back as unknown canine. So pretty interesting for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. And I'm not. Don't think I'm getting at the fact that while it's in this realm, it doesn't leave footprints. It does. Mm-hmm. It doesn't leave the possibility of it leaving nails, claw marks. Mm-hmm. It does. It's I think what I was getting at was it's the in and out, it's the arrival and the exit, it's the why we can't find the body, why does it it's the entry point and exit point that has me bugged. That's what I'm getting at. I'm just wondering, how is such a thing arrive, but in a physical form, which it is, and it's seen in a physical form, and there is evidence from the point of view of, yes, people have seen footprints. There is footprints of Bigfoot, there's footprints of Dogman, and the vocals are absolutely incredible. The stuff I've listened to, which other people have recorded. Yeah, and they've spectrum analyzed the vocals, and it doesn't belong to any known creature. And you're just thinking, I'm scratching my head thinking, well, what the hell could make that noise? So it's absolutely, it's totally credible that yes, it is in physical form here. But what are we seeing? Are we seeing an avatar? Are we seeing something which is here? But I think we should be open to the fact that the possibility that it's a temporary thing here as it's passing through this realm, possibly. That's why we may not be seeing it all the while. It's like the years ago, 500 years ago, but there was bones found of a 7-foot long hound of hell they called it, which was discovered in Suffolk by an ancient abbey, and it was called the Black Shook, which in folklore was the one which broke into a church. But according to the newspapers at the time, the beast's remains have now been found by archaeologists. This is data some time back at the site, but it was over 200 pounds and over 7 foot long. So some people have said that it was back then a Newfoundland dog, but this thing broke into a church. A lot of people in the 15th century, very well documented. You probably heard about it, and that was 15th century. So it was a very physical thing. It's just that it was never found. It was never proven. I just find it ever so. After witnessing what I've witnessed, it's kind of frustrating, man, because it's frustrating for a lot of people out there who like both Bigfooters and Dogman hunters, because it's that one tantalizing bit of evidence. When I done that video where I was out in the woods, and I was like, there was I got it recorded on film, but once again, the film reacts whenever it sees these things. It's always kind of like a bit blurred or a bit out of focus, which is quite strange in itself, because a lot of the cameras that I use are really good cameras. I spend a fair bit of money. They're not at the top of the range. I can't afford top of the range, which are like 40,000 pounds, but they're okay. They're okay. They're good cameras. They're good everyday cameras. And they're not the most expensive. They're not the cheapest. They're middle of the road cameras. And I would imagine for ordinary run-of-the-mill things, they instantly take an instant shot. Brilliant. The ISO is all done automatically. The shutter speed is all fine. The white balance, absolutely spot on for majority of 99% of shots that I take, including action shots. Yeah, any shot I want to take. So I can be taking a shot of I go do a lot of motorbike racing and stuff like that. So, and those guys, when they're on the track, they're doing 160 miles an hour, and they're going around the corner. Their knee is on the tarmac. My cameras will pick up every single detail, blur free. But I use that same camera out in the woods and I shoot what I think is a Dogman, and it's just blurred, it's slightly off focus, and it doesn't make sense. Do you know, Starfox? Just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's some pretty great stuff right there for sure. Again, and before we do let you go, there is definitely something I think you will like, because here at the North American Dogman Project, we do break it down into 3 potential categories: physical, paranormal, and extraterrestrial. And they kind of fall into all 3 of those categories, which is why we have people that, specialize in each aspect, which myself, I specialize more in prehistoric and modern day predator behaviors. And I kind of fall into the category, like we've talked about before, believing Dinopithecus, giant baboons, cave hyenas, dire wolves, short-faced cave bears are definitely involved, in this as well, which would all be physical. But then, like you said, there are some really interesting cases as to when people, speak about things that, like, for example, Skinwalker Ranch, where somebody took a shot at one of these things that apparently was wearing a, trench coat and smoking a cigarette. A huge chunk came out of its side. It didn't acknowledge it whatsoever, which is pretty interesting. But before we let you get going, because you're a super busy guy, there's a jumping spider that chills in my room. I don't know if it's a male or a female. I haven't really been able to catch him or her. Pretty cool though. And tried to take a picture the other day from my brand new iPhone. As soon as my iPhone camera clicked on, like, I could hold the phone up there, right? But as soon as my camera went to activate, that spider picked up on that and immediately hid. So I think potentially maybe our cameras give off something that spooks or allows them to know that something is coming next, because I've tried it numerous times with this spider. And I mean, maybe the first reaction could have been coincidental, but when the spider does it every time, it tells me my phone is doing something that is making it uncomfortable.
Yeah. No, I think at the end of the day, nothing is right, nothing is wrong. Everything is possible. Everything.
Yes.
So I think, yeah, you're completely right. And I think, yeah, with the, I do believe that with cameras there is sensors on them, which sometimes you get laser sights, don't you? You get like
Yes.
laser. They got laser radar focusing and stuff like that. So
So even though we're
it's a
not
bit
seeing
like
it, the spider or something could be picking up on that. Yes.
it's like trail cams. So trail cams are always a topic of argument. I tend to believe that with trail cams there is thousands of them, absolutely thousands of them out there for different reasons. People put them out there. It's not all cryptid based, but for different reasons, people genuinely want to catch badgers. They're interested in that. They're interested in the migration of deer, or they're interested in maybe even a bird box. So there's, but with trail cams, I think the infrared light, these things, Dogman knows, they can see or they sense the infrared spectrum of light, and that's why no matter how many we stick out there, we don't get a bona fide picture of one. There is pictures out there, but I think a lot of them are AI.
Yes.
Because they,
I agree with you on that too, and I think that a big thing is just if you look at trail cams in general, man, the majority of trail cams don't really get the smarter animals on camera. It's usually, I mean, all animals can be intellectual, but it's more game animals. I mean, if you look around and try to search, for example, like mountain lions on trail cams or wolves or grizzly bears and such, you're going to find a couple. But like you said, for how many trail cams are out there, the majority of them are birds, deer, and things like that. Birds are smart. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that any sort of the predators, oh man, being super sneaky and stuff. I don't know, man. I just feel like they know that that's around because they need to be aware. So a lot of people don't realize before, we wrap this up is that predators have a little bit more of heightened senses than game animals. I mean, game animals do too as well, obviously because they need to be aware, but a predator has to be a little bit more sneaky to be successful. Okay, the majority of predators aren't successful that much. Okay, spotted hyenas 90% of the time, but they also have like packs of 100 or so. Okay, but if you look at other animals that are solo predators and stuff, they usually only have like a 50%, a little bit lower. Like cheetahs, they don't have that very high of a success ratio, man. They hunt and such, so they have to be a little bit more ahead of the game because they're already at a disadvantage, meaning a cheetah has short bursts, but a gazelle is meant to get away and run for quite a long time, whereas that cheetah only has a very small amount of energy it can expel. And if it doesn't succeed immediately, almost it has to preserve that energy. So it needs to be able to be sneaky to get up and actually try to get close to their prey animals. And pretty much on a final note, you know what you and I were talking about earlier, my phone just hit me up and I log in. Marie Wilkinson goes, I love your page. I love your information. And I love the music that you add to your videos. Please, everyone, have a listen to this thread they posted. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool, and I agree. I honestly, I think the your intro is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And it's your whole show because you put together a collection of people that otherwise, really, a lot of them wouldn't be heard.
Yes.
They wouldn't have the chance to be heard because a lot of, I'm sorry to say this, and I don't mean to say this, I mean it in good intent. A lot of the larger channels, and a lot of the larger pages out there, they tend to have an ethos of having more well-known and I dare say probably more expensive guests, if you know what I mean. And so the channel like you have, the channels as you view that you have, and the people you have on, and the people you have talking, and any witnesses that you have on are gold. The reason they're gold is because they're normal people with extraordinary experiences, and you give them a vehicle. Let them just drive off and give their own experiences and opinions, and I think it's absolutely refreshing rather than hearing, some of the bigger shows they with the bigger guests, they're kind of like a bit more, they're almost contrived, they're kind of like scripted. I can listen to them and I think, this sounds like before they came on there, I'm sure they must have scripted this, because it sounds like a robot talking.
Yep, and that's that big thing right there. And no, I totally appreciate you, man, which is why I reached out to you and why I'm glad we're good friends and that, we're teammates here, because you are the man for sure. And yes, to the audience, we do need to let Phil get back to what he's doing. But would you like to touch base on anything else, my friend, before we let you get rolling?
No, just next time when we have a chat, I shall be bringing up a subject which is quite close to my heart. And I know that you have it in the States as well, the black dog.
Mm-hmm.
The mysterious black dog, often seen in cemeteries and in burial mounds. Yeah, the Native Americans have often seen this as well, because I'm friends with a couple. So, yeah, I'm going to be talking a bit about that.
Appreciate that. And yes, to the audience, you will hear from Phil again very soon. And also, yes, Phil is a bi-weekly host, so you will hear from him very soon again. And to the audience, yes, we do need to close the Midnight Society book for the evening because, as stated, yes, Dogman teepee hunting, aka Phil, has things he needs to attend to as well. So do go over to his thread and check out what he's up to, because here on Midnight Society, yes, I only deal with shapeshifters, dogmen, werewolves, prehistoric, modern day predator behaviors, but Phil dives into a very broad horizon of things. So if you are interested in topics outside of what I just mentioned, make sure to go over and check out his thread for sure. And thanks for hanging out with us tonight, man.
No, thank you very much indeed. I appreciate you having me on again. It's been but I've totally enjoyed it, and fantastic channel you got. Really, I'm honoured to be. I'm honoured to be on it. Every time I'm on it, I always thank my lucky stars. I do appreciate it.
Ooh, you legends, you. If you did make it this far tonight, I truly do adore and appreciate every single one of you. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Feed the algorithm, and I will see you very soon.